Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going beyond just summarizing and really trying to get into a story of, well, it's pretty remarkable medical recovery.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a personal account. We're looking at chapter 12
Okay.
from a book written by someone who, lived through it all. And honestly, it's a bit of a medical mystery, too.
Yeah. Right from the start, this chapter, it just kind of throws you into the deep end. Like, it doesn't ease you in at all. It immediately confronts you with, like, how serious the whole situation is.
It really does. The author details, like, all the damage to their skin, especially on their limbs. And it wasn't just a few scrapes. It was severe damage. Like, we're talking skin grafts and all that.
Right.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Like, the cause of this damage, it's never really explained.
Yeah, and that was something that I was, like, immediately hooked on because you're trying to put the pieces together as you're reading, trying to figure out, like, what happened.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
source material mentions the skin on their torso was, like, surprisingly intact. And even recovering from, like, a previous infection.
Interesting.
So it's almost as if their body was like, okay, we're going to fight back in this one area.
Yeah.
But then the rest was just critically injured.
Yeah.
It makes you think, like, is there some medical reason for this? Like, why would it be so different?
Totally. It's like this line, right, dividing the healthy tissue from the severely damaged areas.
Yeah.
And that becomes even more important because they actually ended up using the undamaged torso skin as the donor site for the grafts.
Oh, wow.
So for the listener, who may not be super familiar with that, that means they took healthy skin from the torso and used it to cover the damaged areas.
So basically, like, using the good skin to try to heal the really bad skin? That's fascinating, how the body can be so resilient in one spot, but then so vulnerable in others. And imagine going through all this while you're in a coma, like a medically induced coma, for 5 weeks. Can you imagine waking up after that? It's got to be just so disorienting.
I can even imagine, and the chapter really captures that isolation,
Huh.
like confined to a sand bed, surrounded by all this medical equipment, and only the staff are allowed, and
Wow.
family could only watch through a glass window. I mean, that paints a picture of just how serious this really was.
It does, but even with that isolation, there's this constant theme of hope throughout it all. We see the family and the friends just, clinging to that hope. And it even fueled like a global network of people praying for the author's recovery.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Do you think the book delves into whether that played a role in the recovery at all? Or is it more focused on the medical side?
That's a good question. It definitely highlights, the emotional support and the power of belief and all that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really give a definite answer on, like, the role of hope versus the actual medical intervention. It kind of leaves that up to you, which I think makes it even more interesting, honestly.
Yeah. Definitely adds another layer to think about. And speaking of layers, there's this strange detail about the daily baths the author received while still unconscious.
Right.
And apparently, get this, they would respond to commands in French.
Wow.
It's like these small details that just highlight how mysterious the human mind and body really are.
That stood out to me, too. It makes you think about consciousness and the subconscious. Like, even when we seem totally unresponsive, our bodies can do these things that we don't understand.
Yeah. Now, the story takes a big turn when, after 5 weeks of all this, the surgeries, the baths, the bandage changes, they decide to bring the author out of the coma. This is like the big turning point in the whole chapter.
It is, and it's filled with so much tension because the initial prognosis was not good.
Yeah.
Like, amputation of both legs at the waist seemed like the only option. Just think about hearing that news, both for the author and their family. It's just heartbreaking.
Just brace yourself for the worst.
Yeah.
But then, like, the most unexpected thing happens. The author's body actually starts to heal.
Yeah.
It's like defying all the odds, going beyond what the doctors even thought was possible.
The book describes it as this gradual but, like, incredible turnaround.
Right.
It's not just, boom, all of a sudden they're better. It's like this slow climb towards recovery.
It makes you wonder what even triggered that shift. Was it just pure skill from the medical team, or was there something more to it?
Well, the author gives a lot of credit to the medical team, especially Dr. Vandekelen, for their, like, absolute dedication. They used what the book calls cutting-edge medical techniques, and constantly adapting as the author's body responded.
I wonder if the book actually goes into detail about those techniques, like what made them so cutting edge.
Yeah.
It'd be fascinating to understand that medical side a bit more.
You're right. That would be interesting to know more about. Unfortunately, the book is more focused on like the emotional journey, the personal side of things,
Right.
rather than those specific medical procedures. But it does mention that this Dr. Vanderkelen was known for, pushing boundaries and exploring new possibilities in their field.
So maybe it was that combination of Dr. Vanderkillen's approach and the author's own inner strength that really allowed for that healing. And in the end, against all odds, they were able to keep their legs.
That's amazing, a real victory. But as you read further, you realize this whole thing was about way more than just physical healing.
Yeah.
The author goes deep into the transformation they went through, He's
Yep.
talking about loss and growth and accepting this new reality.
This is one line that really stuck with me. It says, the lost parts created space for new possibilities. It's like even in that loss, there's this opportunity to reinvent yourself, to reshape who you are.
That's such a great point. It shows how resilient we are as humans.
Yeah.
Our ability to adapt, to find meaning, even when life throws these huge changes at us.
Exactly. And it's not about forgetting the loss.
Right.
It's about integrating it into this new, evolving sense of self.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's not just about the physical changes, but the emotional and mental impact too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The author reflects on that choice they made to really embrace life, to accept this new way of being, even if it meant letting go of certain things they'd expected before.
I think that choice is a key takeaway from all this. Even when things are out of our control, we can still choose how we respond, how we find meaning in it all, and how we move forward.
You really see that choice in how the author talks about honoring both the lost and the remaining parts of themselves.
Yeah.
It's like this deep self-awareness and a conscious effort to live honestly with this new reality.
Absolutely. It's about accepting not just the physical changes, but the emotional and the mental transformation too. It's this whole person kind of healing where everything's connected.
Speaking of connectedness, we can't forget about the role of hope through all of this,
Right.
right? We saw it in the family and friends at that window, in those people praying all over the world. It's almost like a feedback loop. The author's fight fueling hope, and that hope then fueling the healing.
It's a great example of how much our experiences are all tied together. The author's journey resonated with so many people, it created this ripple effect of hope and support, which probably had a huge impact on their recovery.
It makes you think about the power of collective intention, you
Mhm.
know, and how it could actually affect someone's healing. It's not something science can fully explain, but there's definitely something powerful there.
It really highlights the mystery of being human and how much we still don't understand. There are these forces inside us and around us that we might never fully grasp, but this story definitely makes you think about their potential.
It does. Now, circling back to that amazing recovery, we know the initial prognosis was amputation, but then things changed. What were those factors that led to such an unexpected turnaround?
Well, the book puts a lot of emphasis on how dedicated and skilled the medical team was, especially Dr. Vanderkelen. It seems like they never lost faith in the author's ability to heal, even when it seemed impossible.
It shows you how important medical professionals are, not just for treating the physical stuff,
Yeah.
but also for giving hope and empowering patients. It's about looking beyond the immediate crisis and believing in a positive outcome, even when it's tough.
Exactly. And the author describes the healing as like a marvel, something beyond what conventional medicine could explain. It makes you think there's more going on inside our bodies than we realize.
It's like the author's body had this inherent wisdom, this drive to heal that defied all logic. And the medical team, with their expertise and support, they created the perfect environment for it to happen.
It reminds us that healing isn't always a straight line or predictable.
Yeah.
It can be this mix of so many things, the physical, emotional, even spiritual. And sometimes the most amazing outcomes come from the darkest times.
It's a story that pushes us to think bigger about what's possible, to embrace the mysteries that are just part of being human.
It really does. And it shows us the importance of staying open to those possibilities even when things look bad. This whole story is a testament to hope, to resilience, and to the incredible power our bodies have to heal themselves.
It's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
And it makes you reflect on your own experiences, those setbacks and challenges. How have we faced those moments? What choices did we make when things were tough?
And how can we tap into that same resilience and determination in our own lives?
It's interesting, right? Like this whole story, it takes that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it just goes so much deeper.
It does.
It's not just about physical strength.
Right.
It's about how you change, fundamentally, when you go through something this intense.
Yeah, and it makes you think about how we honor those parts of ourselves we lose along the way, not just from physical trauma, But from anything in life that changes us, how do we acknowledge those losses while also accepting the growth that comes out of them?
It's a big question for all of us to consider, I think, because we all experience loss in different ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be losing someone we love, a dream that didn't pan out, or even, like in this story, part of our physical selves.
Yeah.
But the point is, it doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be a starting point for something new, something we never could have predicted.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between like honoring the pain of what we've lost, but also seeing the potential in that empty space.
Yeah.
Understanding that even in the toughest times, there's always a chance for growth, healing, and getting to know ourselves and the world better.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful. We have explored hope, resilience, the mysteries of the body, and how loss can actually lead to transformation.
Yeah.
And it all comes from just one person's story of their medical journey.
It really sticks with you, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think about your own experiences, your own struggles, and what you're capable of when it comes to healing.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought from this chapter. What does it mean to really choose life, even when facing huge challenges? How can we honor those parts of ourselves that we lose along the way? Maybe those are questions worth a deep dive of your own.
Maybe by embracing those losses, by acknowledging the pain, but also recognizing the potential that comes from those empty spaces. That's how we truly honor what's gone. And maybe that's where real healing and change can start.
Thanks for joining us for this incredibly moving deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking for those moments of insight that make life so rich and complex.